It's a little bit of What is up, guys? There we go. How's everybody doing? DFS Jimmie here, going to take you through some of the TPC Deere Run and the John Deere Classic this week. Give everybody a couple more minutes to get in here. I see we got a few people already in here. How you guys doing? Appreciate you being here on this Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Prime time for DFS content, it seems. I don't know about you guys, but despite all the golf and whatnot, I am pretty fired up for NFL to get back started. I know the Scott Fish Bowl just kicked off. Shout out to Matt Jones, Anthony Miko, and a bunch of other guys in Scott Fish Bowl this week. But yeah, I'm fired up for fantasy football to get going as well. Going to be doing a bunch of shows for fantasy football as well this year. So looking forward to branching out some of my content. But let's see, we'll turn the music down a little bit. And we will go ahead and get into this. TPC Deere Run. You can see it behind me. Well, sort of. TPC Deere Run, as you see here, lots of undulation, not tons of flat lies in the fairways, set amongst the hills of Silvis, Illinois, Quad City area. Of course, it's going to look very similar to what you see here, lush, pretty gettable golf course, very much a birdie fest this week. And there's not a real specific skill set that is needed in order to compete on this golf course. You look at the guys that have won here, they all tend to be good wedge players and good putters, but guys that can catch a hot putter here and go really low for 4 rounds. But you need to put together 65s, 66s, pretty much all 4 days in order to be competitive here at this golf course. I'll put the scorecard up here, and we can take a look at how the course breaks down. But for the most part, it is all about scoring on the par 5s from a DraftKings perspective, and then it is all about scoring on the long par 4s from the par 4 perspective. I guess it's more about not losing strokes on the par 4s than it is about scoring on them. Maybe the medium length par 4s, the 400 to 450, are certainly gettable for anybody that's on this week. Really, the only holes that you can't birdie on this golf course are the 9th and the 18th. And I say you can't birdie them, obviously you can, but really they're the only holes that are prohibitive to scoring. Everywhere else on this course and everything else, really, if a guy's hot, there's not a hole that they can't make a birdie on, fairly easily. You look at the percentages for birdies across all the holes, and you have a lot of 20%. Or close to 20% holes, that's a pretty good clip for some of these par 4s to be birdied at on these courses. So the only thing I noticed sort of differentiating from the winners versus the guys at the top 10 and top 20 are the par 3 scoring, and I think that just comes down to approach. If you caught the podcast, the Bogey Free podcast the other night, I talked a little bit about this, and I also talked a little bit about it in my Fancher Sports video, early week course preview video. If you haven't seen that, definitely go check it out. But it really is all about approach this week, guys that are putting it tight and then guys that are making the putt. So we've got a par 71 bent grass greens here at TPC Deere Run, and again, it's it's a birdie fest here, but you don't need length of any sort to compete. Steve Stricker has won this golf tournament. Zach Johnson wins this golf tournament. Ryan Moore, all guys, great wedge players, strong putters. Sans Ryan Moore, and a couple of the other ones. But you look around the tournaments, you look around the leaderboards for this tournament, you see pretty class golfers that are good wedge players. And tend to be shorter hitters, but strong putters. And those are the guys that win here. Those are the guys that compete, late into a Sunday. And it's a little like grinding up, on any other course. It's just instead of grinding pars, they're grinding birdies here. And you do have to be on. Like I said, you need guys that are putting together 4 rounds under 70. They need to be averaging a 66, 65, 66, 67 across all 4 days to have any kind of shot on a Sunday here. So It is. It's very much a birdie fest, and your guys can have strong ball striking weeks and still fall out because of just burning edges, burning lips on the putts, and it happens. So definitely a lot of variance in these high birdie fest type of events. So I don't know. Just I guess as we work into it and we get through some players, I'll talk through some chalk and maybe some trap areas or some areas to avoid some pivot plays. We're also going to go and dig into fancier sports a little bit, take a look at who's being talked up for you guys, get you a little inside access to there. And guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat, and I will get to them. I'll answer anything you guys got. If we need to look anything up, we'll certainly get to it. But in the meantime, let's transition away from the course if nobody has anything else for it. Pretty straightforward course. Gonna have to score a lot. That being said, let's get into my ranks and the golfers for the week. So what this is my blended model and kind of how I have it weighted and a couple of things that I just am viewing in here. But my overall ranks are up here, and you can kind of see where they are and how I feel about these guys. I've color coded everything. But starting at the top, Molinari, man. Just dominant performance the last time out and everything, but and the course theoretically fits him on paper, but I'm just not going to pay $11,600 for Molly this week. It's just not happening. I wouldn't fault anybody for doing it, really. I just don't. I don't think it's where I'm going to go, and I don't think that you can make really great lineups with him in it this week because of I don't know, man. The bottom of the field is not great, and you just have to give up so much to get a guy that has to win in the same fashion that he just won in to pay off his salary, and I just don't see that happening. So I'm going to be off Molinari, and I'm not going to fault anybody for playing him, but I'm just not going to play him, and I'm going to take my savings elsewhere. And sort of the same thing goes for Bryson and Zach for me this week. I'm going to probably fade them almost 100% and just grab all the shares of Neiman and Moore. I'll probably have a hedge lineup or something like that with the two of them in it, or a couple of them, but I'm taking it kind of light this week, and I'm just going to focus all my attention on Neiman and Moore. I think that when you talk about dollars and skill sets and win equity and opportunities, these guys are so close in my rankings. They're so close in all the projections. Neiman is just red hot. I understand he's going to be chalky, but I'm just going to take the savings and try and build better lineups across all of my teams. And if Bryson defends or Johnson or ZJ wins, that's cool. I don't really care. I can deal with it. But I wouldn't fault anybody for playing him. There's merit to playing both of them. Bryson's absolutely red hot right now. Game obviously fits the course as he's a former champion. And we've seen guys defend more often, it seems like, than maybe in years past. So, fire up Bryson if you want. He is obviously number one ranked in my overall blended model. This week, Zach Johnson's ranked second, and then Ryan Moore and Joaquin Neiman 3 and 4 right behind him. So it's hard to differentiate in this tier. I think you have to take a stand on two of the guys that you like, and you just have to live with not having the other two. That is just the way it is. So moving on or moving down, there we go. Moving down, the $9,000 tier is interesting to me this week. Steve Stricker is three-time champion here. Fits this course exceptionally well on paper. You see all the green here for Steve Stricker. It's hard to find a reason not to play him other than he is incredibly undercursed this week, I saw on Twitter, which is just unfortunate because, well, again, Steve, I'm usually on Stricker. I'm usually on #TeamOldGuy, and I'm a big fan, but I don't know if I can find myself getting behind Stricker at 98 this week while being undercursed. I do really like him. It would be perfect for me if Stricker would kind of bomb out here, and then so I could roster all of them next week at the Open. That'd be fantastic. So I think I'm probably just going to be off a Stricker here as well, but again, would not fault anybody for playing him. Probably going to be a very popular cash choice this week. Kyle Stanley obviously rates really well. Tee to green always does. Been playing pretty consistently as of late. better putter than he has, shown us in the past. I'm not really on Stanley this week. I don't know if he can compete in the birdie fest that we're going to have here. But if there was sort of a GPP pivot in this range, I think Stanley is probably going to be your guy. We'll check FanShare Sports on that here in just a little bit. But moving down, I think the guy that's going to get most of the attention this week is going to be. Turn this music down just a little bit. The guy that's going to get most of the attention this week, I think, is going to be Chesson Hadley. Just playing on another level this year compared to his years previous, and really where he shines is his approach game. Where he struggles is his strokes gain around the green. If you guys are having to use their strokes around the green, they're not in this golf tournament because it's a birdie fest. You need to be hitting every green. They're large greens. You need to be making lots of putts, right? So we need to sort of think about skill sets, and if Chesson's on and his skill set can dominate here, and it mitigates what his weakness is. So Chesson Hadley is going to be getting quite a bit of love, I think, this week, and we'll check FanShare for that as well. But I think Chesson Hadley is going to be a fairly chalky cash play at 9,500. And moving down, the same thing goes for Wes Bryan, 9,100. While he doesn't rate out very well in my models, he does rate out well in one of my comp course blended models that incorporates a little bit of course history, and he weights out well in the course history column, which is the strokes gained total at this golf course. So you can see that there's some reasons that you want to play Bryan. He's got a third and an eighth here or something like that. I mean, really, really strong course history in his only 2 appearances. The course fits what he does very well. Great wedge player, terrible off the tee, doesn't matter here, and then good putter, right? So Bryan obviously likes this golf course. I think that there's a lot of merit to playing him. Maybe doesn't get as chalky as I think. Maybe some people are scared off. His recent form has not been that great, but he's picked up in the last 3 events. He's picked up like 8.8 strokes on approach one event. Then the next event, he had to use his around the green game to kind of get him to a made cut, but he grounded out. And then he used his putter the last time out. So he's kind of got all the pieces to his game back. He just hasn't put them all together on one golf course in one event yet. This could be the event that he does that because, let's face it, I mean, there's only so many courses that Wes Bryan's going to be able to compete at on tour, and this is one of them. So I feel like he's got a little bit extra incentive to kind of get his game in order for this event, and hopefully we see that pay off this week. I'm going to have some exposure to Bryan. If he gets really chalky, I'll lessen it. If he stays kind of lower owned, at least what it looks like is going to be a bit lower owned, then I'll probably have a little bit more of him. Austin Cook is interesting here. Not a ton of reasons to play him. No course history. He rates really well in my models. Good off of the tee recently, as you see, which is not weighted though. But really striking the ball well off the tee. A good bent putter, and he's a good par 4 scorer, and those are things that I'm considering in my models this week. But in my overall model for like comp courses that factors into the blended here, he is ranked number 5. So the stats that I'm using for the comp courses and whatnot, they really like Austin Cook. And I can understand why. He does have a little bit of baby swag coming into this week. He and his wife just announced that they're expecting a child soon. So, sure, I can see Austin Cook as a good GPP play because certainly he's going to go under-owned in this range. I'm almost positive that he'll be under-owned in this range. So, interesting choice there with Austin Cook. David Lingmerth is a guy that probably deserves a little bit of attention. Played better as of late. Has some decent history. Decent form as of late. Doesn't have decent history. If you want the form and you don't care about course history, sure, David Lingmerth might be your guy. I rostered a little bit of him last week. I'm not sure that I want to be there for $9,000 David Lingmerth, if you know what I mean. I am on Chris Kirk. As you see, he's rating out really well for me. Number 1 in mid-range par 4 scoring. Rates out well in the rest of the categories, just not a strong putter is Chris Kirk. It's tough. He does have some decent history here, but it's a mixed bag. Listen, it can all go right for Chris Kirk, and he can win you a GPP. It can all go wrong for Chris Kirk, and he'll be out of this golf tournament by the end of 18 holes. Just know that going in, and understand the upside as well as the downside with Chris Kirk. I'm going to be playing Chris Kirk, and I'm going to try not to go too crazy, but I am going to probably be above field average in ownership. Interesting guys in at the $8,800 range. Again, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will get to them. Let me see here. But moving down, Patrick Rogers, with his second place last year, I think he's going to be an interesting choice. People might look a little too much into that. I understand the course fits him well, but you know, he's a off the tee kind of guy, and bad putter. I don't know. I'm not behind Patrick Rogers. I'm not faulting anybody for playing him. I understand the angle. It's just not one of my guys, and I'm probably not going to try and make him one of my guys this week, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm going to be off of him. Andrew Landry is really interesting to me. I'm not sure I really like the price tag, but the guy has shown the ability to play, you know, some really, really strong golf. And when his putter is on, man, he can gain like 6, 7, 8, 9 strokes on the field putting. So certainly fits, and he's a positive bent putter as well. Certainly fits good wedges as well, diminutive fellow. But I don't know, man. Andrew Landry would not surprise me if he's hanging around that leaderboard on Sunday. But 8,700 is sort of tough. It might be kind of tough for lineups this week. Not sure, but I will have exposure to Landry. I'm off Brian Gay, just no course history. Theoretically, his game fits on paper, but I just another course, another time, bro. So not for me this week. The next one is Wise. I'm not sure I'm gonna jump on the Aaron Wise bandwagon this week. You see, he rates out really well in what I'm looking at, but just a really streaky kid, man. That said, I mean, it really, when you look at his game log and you look at Andrew Landry's, they're about the same, right? So it's hard for me to get, you know, all high and mighty on Andrew Landry and then, you know, kind of talk down about Wise, because they really are like similar golfers when you look at what they have going. Wise, a much bigger hitter off of the tee than Landry is, but a very talented kid with the ability to putt well. So, I mean, could Wise get it going here? Sure, he won out of nowhere, and he could win out of nowhere again. I'm not sure that I'm going to be on him this week. Danny Lee, you see, doesn't rate out well for me. I'm not going to try and, you know, pick and choose where Danny Lee's going to pop anymore. Scott Piercy, Sun Kang, Streelman, all probably popular plays. I'm not sure that I'm going to get behind any of them. I say popular. Streelman will be popular. Piercy and Kang will not be popular. But, you know, sure. I'm just, it's not doing it for me. Streelman does rate out really well in approaches right now, as you see, ranked number 1 overall. It's just, you gotta keep up on this golf course, and you gotta keep up by making birdies. And like, Streelman can't afford to have a 70 or a 71. You know, one of those days. You know, if he has one bad day, he'll be taken totally out of this golf tournament. That said, you know, could Streelman be the guy that catches his hot putter all in 1 week and makes a run? Yeah. I'm just probably not going to be on Streelman in my limited pool this week. Kevin Tway is very interesting to me. A lot of upside. I think he does have a win on tour in him. I'm not sure if this is the place, but he did show well his first time out here. Keith Mitchell, very interesting, big-time scorer. If he could put it all together for 4 rounds, could certainly do something on a track like this, in a field like this. But again, much like Streelman above, very erratic, has that round that will take him out of it almost certainly. So, not sure I'm going to get behind Mitchell. Kelly Craft, you know, tough to watch him, you know, sort of fall apart on Sunday last week. Predictable though. Not sure I'm going to jump back on there. Wouldn't fault anybody for taking a GPP share. Johnson Wagner, Mustache Swag is back. You see that he is number 2 in the strokes gained course history. Johnson really does like this golf course, ladies and gentlemen. And he is a solid long par 4 score. I want to say, you know, it's 28th and 34th, certainly in the upper echelon of the tour, but, you know, he's not like an elite long par 4 scorer. But he rates out pretty well for me at $7,900, and I could see taking a few shares of Johnson this week. Ryan Blom burned quite a few people last week. Is interesting to me. You know, he doesn't, as you see, doesn't rate out very well at all, but theoretically the course does fit him on paper. I don't know, probably not, but I wouldn't fault anybody for trying to jump back on him. Siwoo Kim is the really interesting guy. So one of the things I like to do from FanShare is I like to grab their projected DK points and go to the tags and, and with the official world rankings, and just kind of scroll down through and look at and highlight some of the guys that are mismatched by pricing tier based on their projected ownership, projected tags, official world golf ranking, etc., or projected points. So some of the guys that I've highlighted in blue, they stand out as having a much higher projected points than the guys in their similar pricing tier, Chris Kirk being one of them, Bryson being the guy at the top, standalone. A lot of that has to do with his last year's course history is baked into that. Ryan Moore, number 2 in the field at 96, then Chesson Hadley, Chris Kirk. But as you scroll down, you see some guys like Kevin Streelman, 14th in tags for the week. But Siwoo Kim, 48th ranked golfer in the world, priced $7,800, and this is the type of track that you could see Siwoo Kim pop at. I know it's tough to roster him in DraftKings, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pull the trigger or not, but it is the type of track that you could see a Siwoo Kim getting super hot and it doesn't matter how bad his putter is because everything's going to be a kick-in birdie. Again, it's a big ask, and there's a lot of things that have to go right for that. But Siwoo certainly has the ability to do that on a golf course like this. So, interesting GPP flyer there. I think Answer withdrew, actually. I'm not sure why he's still in here. CT Pan, I'm not going to stop telling my guy, man. I've been on CT Pan for a while. Par 70, par 71s. It's at least a par 71 of this length. Pan can certainly still get it done. Been playing really consistently, a good bent putter. I will certainly have some shares of Pan. And then my guy, the guy I played him last week, been playing him the last couple of weeks, Tyler Duncan, man. A lot more consistent than you would think out of Tyler Duncan. Not really strong finishes, but a lot of consistency in making the cut. And up until this week had been really, really cheap. Now people are kind of wise to him a little bit after last week. Pat Mayo's been talking him up. T-Dunks. So, he's gaining some traction in the industry. But definitely a golfer that is playing a lot more consistently than you might think. Just if you looked at him in some of the stat models and just sort of what your thoughts on a young guy like Tyler Duncan are. A lot of consistency out of him. So I'm interested in going back to him again, mainly because I just can't see not being on him when his approaches have been this strong and his par 4 scoring is this strong. I know he gains most of his strokes off the tee. He is a big hitter, but his approach game has just been there. Tee to green, really consistent. If you get a few putts to fall, man, I like Tyler Duncan, and he scores well. Tyler Duncan scores well. Last week he had an eagle. I don't know. I'm going to be on Tyler Duncan. You guys can take that plunge with me or not fully understand it. The chalk down here, Bronson Burgoon, man, I think he's going to be super chalky this week. Let's look at FanShare actually real quick and see what we got going on. This is the FanShare Pro side, guys. So if you're not a member of FanShare Pro, you should get over there, check them out. This is some of the stuff you're going to get. What they haven't filled in is all the projected ownership. They're still aggregating from the podcast from people like me. They're going to be listening to this, and they're going to take my sentiment into the ranks, and that all comes out tomorrow, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, when their full projection ownerships come out. So make sure you're over there looking at that on Wednesdays. And the other one is the 24 hours that I like to look at on Wednesdays when I'm doing final lineup builds, just to see if anybody's really moved heavily in the last 24 hours. But FanShare has Zach Johnson as the number 1 tagged golfer this week. Not surprising given his course history, given his form recently. Joaquin Niemann right there, number 2. Not a lot of surprises here at the top. A bit surprised that Moore is only number 7 in tags, given his price tag compared to these other guys. And his history here, I would have sort of expected Moore to be a bit higher. Potentially getting a discount on Moore this week. I'd be interested to see where the rest of the tags come in. Joel Dahman, 9th in tags. That's surprising to me. Did not see Joel Dahman's tag count that high. Interesting. Moving down, Chris Kirk coming in T11. So the secret is out on Kirk. That Kirk chalk is maybe not the thing that I want to be on. The Wonder Kid from last week that kind of disappointed everybody. Panda, Norman Zhang, Norman X. Is T14 in tags again this week. Interesting. People are ready to go right back to him. Young, talented players. New shiny toys. Our DFS players always attracted to new shiny toys. This guy right here, though, Dylan Meyer, plus 35 from last week. We're still ranked T24. If you haven't read this kid's story, man, I just read it literally right before this podcast. I didn't know anything about this Dylan Meyer kid other than Matt Jones told me that I need to look out for him in a few weeks, and this was back at the Open. So here it is a few weeks later, and I asked Matt about Dylan Meyer, and dude, this kid has got he's got some stuff, man. He's got some life stuff that just punched him in the gut quite literally, and has found a way to overcome some of this stuff. Has this ridiculous treatment schedule that he follows, this regimen, has this incredible outlook. It's a good thing he has an incredible outlook, man. Those glasses he wears, my gosh, those things you could pick up. I don't know, man. Some binoculars. Dude has got the frames going, but. Dylan Meyer, man, super story. If you haven't checked it out, go to the PGA Tour website, check out this kid's story. Pretty inspiring stuff. And from the area, didn't know he was from the area. I'm always conflicted about golfers that are from the area playing quote unquote home games. I don't really know how I feel about a golfer with all the added distractions that come along with, dealing with friends and family and the tickets and just all the stuff that has to go along with, you being the guy that, you came up and you made it on tour and now you're playing on tour in your hometown. It's got to be another layer. I'm just wondering if that's good or bad or how he approaches it this week. I don't know. I would like to think that he can handle it, and I don't know. I'm going to roster him. I'm going to do it. I think I'm just going to take the plunge at $7,000. I think I'm going to grab 30-40% of him and just live or die with Dylan Meyer as one of my value guys this week. It'll be interesting to see how much chalkier, how much further he moves up. Especially with Norman Zhang being right above him in tags already and cheaper in dollars. So one of the other nice things about Fancher, by the way, they put is the dollar increase or decrease from last week, right there in this screen. It's always helpful. It's always nice for me to look at and know where the movement is, especially when you get a weak field event like this and guys are getting their price gets way out of whack. Some of the guys don't move nearly as much as they should and offer quite a bit of value. JT Poston being no love down here with JT Poston, playing pretty consistently lately. Course sets up well for Poston, gaining strokes on approach. Would not be surprised to see Poston as a strong GPP pivot in the mid $7,000 range this week, especially if he continues to be disrespected in the tags. Chris Stroud, I don't know where Savannah is. Savannah from the chat last week was hyping me up about Chris Stroud. Unfortunately, Chris Stroud missed the cut last week for Savannah, but this week I feel like Chris Stroud might be an interesting GPP flyer. Take a dart or two at him. Let's see, moving down, some other guys that aren't tagged. Trey Mullinax is interesting to me. I was clicking through, looking at some stuff on Trey Mullinax. He had a decent showing here last year. Strong putter, and much like Kim and some of these other guys, just has popped at random at some of these courses, some of these events this year. Doesn't have a ton of form coming in, and it doesn't follow it up with good form either. So this could be a week where a guy like Mullinax can dial it back off of the tee, use his long iron game, put himself in some really good positions off of the tee, and get his wedges going and get his putter going. So I'll be interested to see if he can do it. I'm not sure how many shares I'll have, but I'll probably have one or two for sure of Mullinax down there. I will take some Norman Zhang this week. Actually, I didn't. I only had 2 lineups with him last week. I will take a few lineups with him this week to see what the kid can do. Definitely. It always feels like there's your first start. It's sort of like your first start in anything, right? There's like this huge adrenaline rush, and then there's this huge adrenaline dump, right? The massive high leads to a massive low, and I just, I don't know. I think that probably got to him last week in some form or fashion, and maybe this week, that mellows back out a little bit, and he is ready to kind of rise to the challenge. So be interested to see what he can do, but a lot of people hyping up the Panda yet again this week, gaining 12 spots on FanShare just today in the last 24 hours, and we haven't even gotten to the last day yet. So FanShare on top of it, and we'll see if Zhang gets as popular this week as he did last week. Sentiment not quite as strong on Zhang this week. 3 people calling for the sit. Last week it was nobody was calling for the sit. Patrick Rogers, very interesting. Patrick Rogers, if you're over at FanShare, check it out. You're a very polarizing player. I've heard a lot of people talk up Rogers so far this week, and a lot of people tagging him, but probably by far the most mixed sentiment of any player in the field, with 65% start sentiment. A lot of people leery. Count me in the leery category. I'm not going to have any of Patrick Rogers this week. He's not one of my guys, and I don't think I'm going to make him one this week. Wes Bryan is the other one up here that seems to be getting a little bit of people are a little bit hesitant to get on the Wes Bryan train, especially with a huge price jump, man. You look here, $1,600 price jump. I mean, we were paying like $7,400, $7,300 for Wes Bryan just like 2 weeks ago. And here we are, $1,600 more, $9,100 in this field. Now, granted, the course history kind of dictates it, but it certainly feels like you're paying for all course history in the Wesley Bryan price this week. But like I said earlier, I'm going to have some Wesley Bryan. Not going to get too carried away, but I'm also not going to shy away. Definitely going to take my stands on Neiman and more at the top, though. Looks like some folks are a little hesitant on Neiman. Interesting. Maybe some folks are pumping the brakes a little bit, which is understandable. He has had a meteoric rise. It does feel like there will be an event where he kind of misses. And if that's this event, that's fine. I like what I've seen from him. I like where it's at. Earning his tour card in 7 starts, John Rahm-esque. Pretty impressive stuff, really. So I'm not going to jump off the Neiman train. I'm riding this baby all the way to his win, whenever that is, right? But I've been on him the last few times out, and he's already made me a lot of money at the Houston Open. So I'm not going to shy away. I'm going to go right back to Neiman this week. So anyway, what do you guys got? Anybody got anything? Questions, comments, concerns? Let's see, let me pull up my dashboard here. Anyway, generally speaking, class golfers win this event, and when you start getting down to the middle of this field, it's really difficult for me to say that there are a lot of class golfers this week. So as I've been building lineups, and as I've worked through, actually I'll pull up my DraftKings here real quick. We'll build a couple of cores and see what things look like here. Okay. So can't build all 6. DraftKings gets mad at that, and I'm sure that they're going to be watching and policing this video. So I better make sure I don't violate the terms of service. But when you start building lineups this week, and as you guys get into this, like once you grab a $10,000 player, you get down to the $7,900 range, and we're into some golfers that it's difficult to say whether or not you've got class in this field or class in these golfers, and it's like I don't know, So I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards this stars and scrubs type of lineup build. Two popular players, Neiman and Hadley. I think if you look at the FanShare tags and where ownership's going to shake out, these will be 2 popular choices. So that's going to leave you with like 7,500 left. And guys are going to come here. Varner's going to be a popular play. Connors is worth a look. David Hearn even potentially worth a look. There's Mullinax down here, but you don't have anything that makes you feel really comfortable down in this range for sure. Takes you to like 7,600 is about as comfortable as I feel like going this week. I mean, and I'll grab some of these guys lower if I need to. If I need to play a Poston, I'll play Poston, or we could even play a Connors if you wanted. But you're gonna have to grab 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys in this range if you're trying to do this sort of mid stars and scrubs stack, right? And that's not that comforting when you look at who's in here, because it's hard for me to see a lot of consistency in any of these guys. I can come up with a lot of reasons to play one or to consider one, but when it comes down to actually taking a stand on, how confident do I feel in taking significant shares of any of these guys, it's like, not great. So the other way, guys, I think guys might do is they might stack this $9,000 range, and you might grab Wesley Bryan and Chesson Hadley, and that bumps your average ownership up just a little bit. And it allows you to stay out of the chalky Dahmen range, or this even the CT Pan range, and you can operate up here a little bit. And maybe even guys, if you have confidence, like for example, I'm pretty high on Duncan this week. So if I grab Duncan, maybe I can get the rest of my team in with a Tway or a Wagner potentially. Even if I wanted to, I could go up. You could still go up and grab yourself a Landry, if you really want, but guys will be grabbing Streelman right in this range, and Tway, Keith Mitchell, and that wouldn't round out a terrible team. The problem is you feel like you're leaving a lot of win equity on the table when you do this, right? And I mean, I do as well. I don't feel like I have a ton of win equity with Wesley Bryan and Chesson Hadley compared to if I were to grab a Moore or a Neiman. And I know Neiman hasn't won, but I feel like that win's coming, and that's obviously my perspective. But I would feel better about my win equity grabbing one of these guys up here. Hell, even Austin Cook. I mean, Chesson Hadley certainly has win equity, and Austin Cook has some win equity as well. Kirk can do it, but it's just if you're not grabbing one of these guys here in Zach, Bryson, you feel like you're leaving a lot of win equity on the table, because these guys are always there every single year. So I really do feel like, based on how many lineups guys are going to be entering, and I think most of the people are going to be taking it easy this week and spreading it out, that you're going to be forced to a decision in where your exposures are. And for me, I'm just settling on Neiman and Moore. But I think you're going to have guys that they're just going to have to take their stance on Johnson. They're going to have to take their stance on DeChambeau if that's where they want to be, because they can't really afford to grab another one of those guys there unless they're playing Norman, right? Unless you're going to play Norman or Meyer. So if you're playing Norman or Meyer, you can afford to do that at $6,600, and that's I think maybe the most appealing strategy for some of the sharps this week, is going in, grabbing Norman, or going in and grabbing Meyer, either one. Right? Maybe both. Maybe you see guys stack both of them, come back up to the top and stack like a Zach Johnson and a Steve Stricker, right? And then you're still at $7,700. That's a pretty aggressive strategy. But again, this is a score fest and blah blah blah. A lot of variance here, and these are 2 talented players people have been talking up. But let's say you only take one of them, right? Let's say guys go back to Zhang this week, and you don't take Meyer. You still have 74-66. And with some of the guys I've talked about and we've covered here, and what else is out there in the industry this week, you should be able to round out a lineup this way if you really want to do a superstars and scrubs. There are viable options down at the bottom to do that this week, right? You've got Zhang, you've got Meyer, you've got the Doug Gim kid, you've got Lonto, Griffin. Dude, Summer Hayes, here's an interesting thing. Summer Hayes has been missing cut after cut after cut. This guy has been playing bad golf right now, right? Thing is, man, he loves this golf course. Dude just putts, man. Just putts. So, don't be surprised if Summer Hayes makes a cut here this week and, posts the top 30 or something crazy at this event. Actually, let me see. What's his, I'll tell you what his history is here real quick. Yeah, strong, positive bent putter. Good long irons when he's on. When he's on, yeah, okay. So here, let me read off the history here for you at the John Deere. Last year, 12th. Year before that, 2016, missed cut. Prior year, 15, an 8th, then a 13th, then a 4th, and then a missed cut in 2012. Summer Hayes just loves this golf course, loves this golf tournament. And a lot of it probably has to do with just it's really easy tee to green. It doesn't tax him to do anything, terribly difficult. But when his irons are on, man, dude, this guy lights this place up. So don't feel like when you're all the way down here, there's not some other options than or maybe the chalkier ones. You could see guys taking strong positions on Summer Hayes, Orlando Griffin playing some pretty solid golf right now as well. 3 made cuts in a row. A couple of the difficult fields. Not surprised he missed the cut at the U.S. Open. It's not really him. FedEx St. Jude Classic, same thing. Difficult par 70. But recently has turned in some decent results. So I can see some guys going to Orlando. I don't know how you actually say his name, but other than that, man, if you're all the way down here, it's pretty ugly. Brent Stegmeyer, maybe Dominic Bazzelli. I could see guys taking some flyers on or taking some interest in. Garrigus, sure, he screwed a bunch of people last week. He's always going to pop up. Man, if you guys didn't see the freaking thing in Scratch Golf, Tom Lovelady and Trey Mullinax, man, they played a tennis match, and it was fairly comical. Tom Lovelady body is not built for actual tennis, built for like Wii tennis for sure. So you should check that out on PGA Tour Live Under Par, Live Under Par, whatever their hashtag thing is. You should check that out. Another guy, Chad Campbell, course history maven down here. Always seems to pop up, very much like Summer Hayes. Doesn't really matter how he's playing, seems to get it done here year in and year out. If you're concerned, Chad Campbell playing like total garbage right now. Probably not playing him for me, no. I did mention Chris Stroud earlier. Probably going to take a few shares of him. Dylan Meyer. Dylan's the guy I'm actually going to be really high on this week in terms of like the my punt play. A little unfortunate that I don't know, maybe it seems like he's going to end up chalky. Maybe he's not going to end up as chalky as I think. It's a little unfortunate that he was as highly tagged on FanShare as he was already. But that happens. So, let's see. What else we got? You got any questions out there? Any questions? All right. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap this one up. We got actually touch on the we'll touch on the Open real quick. Look at the pricing for the Open. If you guys haven't looked at that, Open pricing is out. I've already got a couple of Millionaire Maker teams in there. All right. We need to try and win the Millie. Probably shouldn't show my actual team. There we go. So, pricing for the Millie, man. As you would expect, Dustin Johnson is at the top. Dustin Johnson, an underrated links player, has played over there well, plays well in the wind. World number one, never won, or I say never, I think Tiger was the only one or last one to do it. World number one typically doesn't perform well at the Open or doesn't fare well at the Open. Do with that what you will. Dustin Johnson priced at the top, field favorite. Right behind him, Rory, followed by Spieth, Rose, Thomas, Rahm, and Fowler to round out the above $9,500 guys. I think you're going to see Spieth get really popular at the Open. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Certainly has the pedigree and the history and et cetera, but I think a lot of your ownership and a lot of your lineups are all going to be focused around a balanced construction in the coming week. You look at like Jason Day, $8,800. Most weeks we're used to seeing Jason Day up here among the 5 elite golfers, right? Jason Day, huge disrespect down here, $8,800. Doesn't have the greatest greatest record at the Opens, but does all the things that you would theoretically want him to do well in the Open. So for one of those pricing things that jumped out to me right away was Jason Day down at $8,800. Not really sure what's up with him being so far down the list. You get down here. This is a humongous field, by the way, guys. Humongous field for the Open. A lot of value though. Brent Snedeker at $7,300 going to be a guy, and Zach Johnson $7,200. I can almost call it right now. Those guys are going to be huge chalk over on FanShare. Matter of fact, FanShare is probably going to get a tag for both of them in there right now. The other guy that could be huge chalk is super popular Tony Finau, $7,200 on a course that does demand some length of your approaches and of guys. Haven't dug into Finau and how he might fit a links golf course yet, but certainly going to be an interesting topic of conversation next week as we dig into it. I'll be digging into Tony and what my thoughts are, but there's a lot of really interesting golfers down here that theoretically fit. But I'm not sure. Actually, I'll tell you one right now that I think is going to. He could end up chalky, but I think has a great opportunity to make a strong performance at an Open Championship is Russell Henley right there. You can book it. Russell Henley, Zach Johnson. I actually called for a Zach Johnson win at this event earlier in the season. Already bet it as well. Yeah, you want the chalky value round out right there. 6,900, 7,200, 7,300. Henley, Johnson, Snedeker. Great opportunity for guys that are links players and strong in the wind. Can get it done on a course like Carnoustie. Difficult links golf course, ladies and gentlemen. No two ways about it. But yeah, the pricing is out for the Open next week. I'm going to have my course preview video with FanShare coming out for the Carnoustie on the Open. Hopefully tomorrow, could be Thursday when it finally launches, but either way, be on the lookout for that. My article on DFS Report, or it's actually playpicks.com now, at DFS Report, that is going to be dropping tomorrow for the John Deere Classic. Going to have the article out early next week for the Open, maybe even late this week for the full article. Going to have another breakdown for the Open, probably next Tuesday again. I got the podcast Monday. A lot of content coming out for the Open, so make sure you guys click the follow button actually on Twitch. Make sure you give me a follow. Just to let you know when I come online, let you know when I go live. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you give the video a like. That is much appreciated. Any comments, feedback, questions, suggestions, always open to that. So go ahead and leave any comments you want. Certainly appreciate it. Other than that, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Pick to win for the John Deere Classic. It is going to be Joaquin Niemann. He's my guy. Haven't strayed from him thus far. My gosh, I can't believe. There we go. Sorry about that. I haven't strayed from him thus far, and I don't think I'm going to start now. I am going to go back to Joaquin Niemann as getting his maiden victory here this week. Not exactly a bold call, and probably the wrong one, but it is the one I'm going to make this week. So have a lot of exposure to Joaquin. All right, guys. At DFS Jimmie signing off. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter. Best of luck this week, and we'll see you guys next week for the Open. Take care.